Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Roman philosopher Seneca shared a powerful idea in his famous book, Letters from a Stoic. He wrote, "Hardships strengthen the mind just as labor strengthens the body." At first, these words may sound simple, but if you think deeply about them, they carry a powerful truth that still applies to our lives today. Seneca was not saying that pain, struggle, or suffering are pleasant. He meant that difficult moments are often the very things that shape us into stronger people. Just as the body becomes stronger through hard work and effort, the human mind grows stronger through challenges, failures, disappointments, and obstacles. Most people spend their entire lives trying to escape hardship. They complain about what they do not have, compare themselves to others, and focus only on their weaknesses. But while they waste their energy thinking about everything missing from their lives, they forget to use the abilities they already possess. The truth is, success does not always belong to the strongest person or the richest one. Again and again, life proves that the people who succeed are often the ones who stay calm during difficult times. They are the ones who think clearly while everyone else panics. They are the ones who search for solutions instead of staring helplessly at problems. And once you truly understand this lesson, your view of limitations begins to change. Instead of seeing them as walls that hold you back, you begin to see them as opportunities to think differently, adapt, and become stronger than before. Long ago, in the middle of a peaceful green forest, there lived a small tortoise. The forest was full of giant trees whose branches stretched high into the sky. Birds sang sweet songs from morning until evening, and a crystal clear river flowed gently through the land in every season. The air always felt calm, fresh, and full of life. The tortoise lived a very simple life. Every day, he slowly walked across the forest floor searching for whatever food he could find. Sometimes he ate fallen fruit lying beneath the trees. Other times he searched for soft leaves or tiny scraps of food near the riverbank. His life was quiet, slow, and ordinary. Every animal in the forest knew the tortoise well, but almost all of them saw him the same way. Small, weak, and too slow to survive in a dangerous world. In a forest where speed and strength often meant survival, animals like the deer, monkeys, and wild cats appeared far more powerful than him. Many creatures underestimated the tortoise because of his slow movements and simple appearance. Not because they hated him, but because that was simply how the forest judged others. Yet despite all of this, the tortoise never became angry or bitter. He never complained about his weaknesses. He never wished to become someone else. Day after day, he continued moving forward patiently and calmly, taking one slow step at a time. He had no idea that very soon, his intelligence would prove far more valuable than strength itself. One peaceful morning, the forest slowly awakened beneath the soft golden light of the rising sun. Cool air drifted gently through the tall trees, while the songs of birds echoed from branch to branch. Leaves rustled softly in the wind, and the clear river reflected the warm colors of the sky like a shining mirror. Like every other day, the tortoise slowly walked along the forest path in search of food. His small feet moved steadily across the ground, while his sharp eyes carefully searched through the grass and fallen leaves. Life had never been easy for him, but over time, he had learned to survive with patience. He never rushed. He never complained, and he never stopped moving forward. As he approached a narrow path near the riverbank, something suddenly caught his attention. A crow stood beside several walnuts scattered across the ground. The bird looked extremely frustrated. Again and again, she struck the hard shells with her sharp beak, but nothing happened. She picked up one walnut, flew a short distance into the air, and dropped it forcefully onto a rock below. Crack! But the sound did not come from the walnut. The stone beneath it had cracked instead, while the shell remained completely unbroken. The crow let out an irritated cry. She grabbed another walnut, this time smashing it even harder against a larger rock. Still, nothing happened. The shells were simply too hard to break. The tortoise stopped quietly and watched from a distance. He could see the crow becoming more frustrated with every failed attempt. Her wings flapped impatiently, and her sharp beak struck the walnuts over and over again. It was obvious. She had been struggling for a long time. As the tortoise continued watching, he slowly realized something important. Those walnuts were not impossible for him to open. Unlike the crow, he possessed a strong and steady bite capable of cracking hard shells with ease. And at that moment, he understood that he could solve the crow's problem within minutes. But the tortoise remained silent. He understood that approaching an already frustrated animal could easily create even more trouble. So instead of interfering, he calmly continued on his journey without saying a single word. After walking for quite some time, he eventually entered a quieter part of the forest that he rarely visited. The trees there were taller and grew very close together. casting long dark shadows across the ground. Suddenly, the tortoise stopped. Right in front of him stood a beautiful banana tree, covered with ripe golden bananas hanging high from its branches. Their sweet smell filled the air instantly. The tortoise looked up with wide eyes. It had been many months since he had seen food that looked so fresh and delicious. Slowly, he moved closer to the tree. First, he pushed against the trunk with all the strength in his small body, hoping the bananas might fall. But the tree did not move even slightly. He tried again, this time using even more force. Still, nothing happened. Then he opened his mouth and bit the trunk, hoping he could somehow loosen the fruit above him. But it was useless. His small size, his weak strength, and his slow body gave him no chance of reaching the bananas. For several long moments, the tortoise stood silently beneath the tree, staring at the fruit he could not reach. Anyone else might have become angry. Anyone else might have given up completely, but the tortoise did neither. Instead, he slowly turned around, and with calm determination in his eyes, he began walking back toward the place where he had seen the crow. When the tortoise finally returned to the river path, the crow was still standing beside the pile of walnuts. The scene had hardly changed at all. Broken pieces of stone were scattered across the ground, but not a single walnut shell had opened. The crow looked exhausted now. Her breathing had become heavier, and frustration was clearly visible in her tired eyes. Every failed attempt only made her more irritated than before. The tortoise quietly walked toward her, his slow steps calm and steady. For a moment, he simply observed the situation without speaking. The crow grabbed another walnut and slammed it against a rock with all her strength. Nothing happened. In anger, she threw the walnut aside and let out a loud cry of frustration. This time, the tortoise finally decided to speak. In a calm and respectful voice, he told the crow that he might be able to help her crack the walnuts. Hearing those words, the crow immediately turned toward him with doubt written all over her face. To her, the tortoise looked like the last creature in the forest capable of helping anyone. He was slow, small, and physically unimpressive. But despite her doubts, the crow also understood something important. She had already tried everything she could think of, and nothing had worked. At that moment, she had no better option left. The tortoise then explained his idea. Earlier in the forest, he had discovered a banana tree filled with ripe fruit, but he could not reach the bananas by himself. If the crow agreed to help him collect the bananas, then in return, he would crack all the walnuts for her. The crow became silent. Part of her still questioned whether the tortoise truly possessed the ability he claimed, but another part of her realized that continuing alone would only waste more time and energy. After thinking carefully for a few moments, she finally nodded her head and accepted the deal. Without wasting another second, the tortoise slowly moved toward the walnuts. He picked one up carefully in his mouth and pressed down firmly with his powerful bite. Crack! The shell split open instantly, revealing the walnut hidden inside. The crow's eyes widened in surprise. She quickly stepped closer, staring at the open shell in complete disbelief. Before she could even speak, the tortoise picked up another walnut. Crack! Once again, the shell broke apart with ease. At that moment, all doubt disappeared from the crow's mind. The tortoise truly possessed the exact skill she lacked. Without wasting any more time, the crow immediately flew toward the banana tree. For her, reaching the fruit was effortless. She landed gracefully on the branches and began picking the ripe bananas one by one. Since her claws could only carry a few at a time, she had to make several trips between the tree and the tortoise. Meanwhile, down on the ground, the tortoise patiently continued his work. One walnut after another, he cracked them open slowly but steadily. He never rushed, and he never complained. The partnership worked perfectly. Neither of them tried to trick the other. Neither became greedy or selfish. Each simply used the ability they already possessed to solve the other's problem. Before long, both animals finally received what they wanted. The tortoise happily enjoyed the sweet bananas that he could never have reached on his own, and the crow finally ate the walnuts that had frustrated her for so many hours. When everything was finished, there were no grand speeches and no celebrations, only silence and a quiet feeling of respect between them. As the crow spread her wings and disappeared into the sky, one thought remained deeply in her mind. The tortoise may have looked weak and slow from the outside, but he was far wiser than he appeared. The tortoise continued moving peacefully through the forest, his stomach finally full after enjoying the sweet, ripe bananas. His slow footsteps pressed gently against the soft earth as he wandered beneath the shade of the tall trees. To anyone watching him, he looked exactly the same as always, quiet, calm, and unhurried. But the events of that day had already revealed an important truth. Being weak in one area does not mean being completely powerless. The tortoise had achieved something impossible, not through strength, but through patience and intelligence. While other animals depended only on speed or force, he had learned to survive by thinking carefully and using the abilities he already possessed. As he slowly continued deeper into the forest, the surroundings gradually began to change. The bright sunlight shining through the trees slowly faded as the forest became thicker and darker. The bushes grew dense and tangled, covering much of the ground. Even the cheerful sounds of birds and insects began disappearing little by little. An uneasy silence spread through the air. The tortoise noticed the strange change around him, but continued walking calmly. He did not realize that he had unknowingly entered one of the most dangerous parts of the forest. Suddenly, the nearby bushes shook violently. Before the tortoise could react, a huge bear burst out from the thick undergrowth and charged directly toward him. The animal was enormous. Its heavy paws slammed against the ground, while its sharp claws and dark fur made it look even more terrifying in the shadows of the forest. Everything happened in a single instant. There was no time to escape, no nearby hole to hide in, and no possible way for the tortoise to outrun such a powerful predator. Danger stood right in front of him. But instead of panicking or losing control, the tortoise reacted immediately. In one quick movement, he pulled his head, legs, and tail completely inside his shell, until nothing remained visible except a hard round shell resting on the ground. The bear suddenly stopped, surprised by what he saw. For a brief moment, he stared at the strange shell lying before him. Then his patience disappeared. With a loud growl, the bear slammed his sharp claws against the shell, trying to rip it open, but nothing happened. The shell remained firm and unbroken. The bear growled again, even louder this time. He lowered his head and bit down with all his strength, hoping his powerful jaws would crush the tortoise instantly. Still, nothing. The shell refused to crack. Now the bear's frustration slowly turned into anger. What should have been an easy meal had suddenly become a difficult challenge. Determined not to lose, the bear lifted the tortoise high into the air with his massive paws and violently threw him against a nearby rock. Thud. The heavy sound echoed through the silent forest. Yet even after such a powerful impact, the shell remained unharmed. The bear became furious, again and again. He attacked the shell with increasing force. He clawed it, bit it, struck it against the ground and rocks, but no matter what he tried, he could not break through the tortoise's natural protection. Minutes passed, yet the result never changed. Inside the shell, the tortoise remained calm despite the danger surrounding him. He understood something very important. His shell could protect him for now, but not forever. Sooner or later, the bear might find a way to succeed. He needed another plan, not a plan based on strength, not a plan based on speed, a plan based on intelligence. And deep inside his shell, the tortoise quietly began to think. Inside the shell, the tortoise remained completely still, while the angry bear continued trying to break through his hard protection. Every heavy strike echoed around him, but despite the danger, the tortoise forced himself to stay calm. He understood something important. Panic would only make the situation worse. If he truly wanted to survive, he needed to think carefully. For several long moments, he stayed silent inside the darkness of his shell, listening to the bear's frustrated growls echo through the forest. Then slowly, an idea began forming in his mind. At last, the tortoise decided to speak. From inside the shell, his voice came out soft and controlled, but clear enough for the bear to hear. "You are wasting your strength," the tortoise said calmly. "This shell cannot be broken so easily, but if you place me in water for some time, the shell will soften, and then you can easily tear it apart." The bear immediately stopped moving. For a moment, the entire forest became silent again. The bear lowered his head and stared suspiciously at the shell lying before him. At first, he was unsure whether the tortoise was telling the truth, but the more he thought about it, the more reasonable the idea began to sound. After all, water softened many things in nature. Wood became weak after staying wet too long. Soil turned soft and muddy after heavy rain. Even tree bark changed when soaked in water. Perhaps the tortoise's shell worked the same way. Slowly, the bear turned his eyes toward the nearby river flowing through the forest. Then he looked back at the tortoise. Without thinking any further, he finally made his decision. Using his massive paws, the bear picked up the tortoise and began walking heavily toward the riverbank. Each powerful step shook the ground beneath him, as he carried what he believed would soon become an easy meal. Inside the shell, the tortoise remained perfectly quiet. Soon, the bear reached the edge of the river. where the clear water flowed gently over smooth stones. Without hesitation, he lowered the tortoise directly into the water, then stepped back confidently. Now, he simply waited. For the first few moments, nothing happened at all. The tortoise stayed completely still beneath the surface, while the bear watched closely, expecting the shell to soften at any second. But then suddenly, the tortoise shot forward through the water. In one quick movement, he stretched out his legs and head, and began swimming rapidly away from the riverbank. Inside the water, his body moved far faster and more smoothly than it ever could on land. His strong legs pushed against the current as he disappeared deeper into the river. The bear's eyes widened in shock. He rushed forward immediately and swung his massive paw through the water, trying to catch the escaping tortoise. But it was already too late. The tortoise had gone too far. Within moments, he reached deeper water completely beyond the bear's reach. Then slowly, he vanished beneath the surface. Once again, the river became calm and silent. The bear stood motionless at the edge of the water, staring at the empty ripples spreading across the river. And only then did the truth finally strike him. He had been fooled. The tortoise had escaped, not through strength and not through speed, but through intelligence. Meanwhile, beneath the cool flowing water, the tortoise continued swimming safely away from danger. His heart still beat quickly after the terrifying encounter, yet his mind remained steady and calm. Once again, he had survived by using the greatest ability he possessed. Not power, not size, not speed, but the ability to remain calm and think wisely under pressure. This story carries a lesson that many people overlook in their own lives. True strength does not always come from power, speed, or physical ability. Very often, intelligence, patience, and calm thinking can achieve far more than force ever could. The tortoise in this story was not powerful like the bear. He was not fast like the crow or the other animals in the forest. Compared to them, he appeared weak, slow, and ordinary. Most creatures around him underestimated him because they judged him only by what they could see on the outside. But the tortoise understood something important that many others did not. He knew that constantly complaining about his weaknesses would never change his situation. Instead of wasting his energy wishing he were stronger or faster, he focused on using the abilities he already possessed. He understood his own strengths, even if they seemed small compared to others. When he could not reach the bananas by himself, he did not sit beneath the tree feeling sorry for himself. Instead, he searched for another solution. He realized that the crow possessed an ability he lacked, while he himself had a skill the crow desperately needed, and by thinking carefully and cooperating wisely, both of them achieved something they could never have accomplished alone. Later, when the dangerous bear attacked him, the tortoise once again faced a situation where strength alone could never save him. The bear was larger, faster, and far more powerful in every possible way. If survival depended only on physical strength, the tortoise would not have stood a chance at all. Yet even in that terrifying moment, the tortoise did not allow fear to control his mind. Instead of panicking, he remained calm enough to think clearly. He carefully observed the situation, understood the bear's impatience, and used intelligence to create a path of escape. In the end, it was not power that saved the tortoise's life, it was wisdom. And the same truth applies to our own lives today. Many people believe that success belongs only to those born with wealth, talent, beauty, influence, or special opportunities. Because of this, they spend years focusing on everything they do not have. They compare themselves to others. They feel discouraged by their limitations, and slowly, they begin doubting their own potential. But life repeatedly proves something very different. Again and again. The people who move forward are often not the strongest people in the room. They are the ones who stay calm under pressure, think clearly during confusion, and continue searching for solutions when everyone else gives up. Every person faces limitations in life. Some people lack money, others lack education, support, experience, or connections. Some face failure, rejection, or difficult circumstances that seem unfair. But every human being possesses one powerful ability, the ability to think, and when the mind is trained properly, it can become stronger than fear, stronger than obstacles, and stronger than difficult situations. Intelligence allows people to adapt, solve problems, and discover opportunities hidden inside challenges. So instead of spending your life focusing only on what you lack, learn to sharpen the abilities you already possess. Develop patience, improve your thinking, stay calm during difficult moments, learn to observe situations carefully, instead of reacting emotionally. Because in the end, Success is rarely decided only by who is the strongest or the fastest. More often, success belongs to the person who finds the smartest path forward. When everyone else sees no way ahead,